September of 2022, Joseph Parker gets knocked out in the 11th round by Joe Joyce. At that point, I kind of thought, okay, he's still quite young, but it doesn't look good for his career moving forward, especially considering that his previous two losses had been points decisions. Now he's being stopped by Joe Joyce. March the 8th, 2024, Joe Parker beat Zhilei Zhang in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, in the co-main event of Joshua Ngannou, in his second big win in a row, having taken Deontay Wilder the distance and beaten him pretty soundly. And now he's done the same to Zhilei Zhang, who many people had in their top 5 in the heavyweight division, and he is now the WBO interim heavyweight champion. A loss doesn't define the fighter, even if it's a bad loss. If you come back, stay active, try and improve things with your trainer, and just keep learning, even if you're fighting no-hopers like Simon Keane, if you're trying to implement what your trainer is teaching you, if you are coming at the game of boxing with a different mindset after that loss, it's really irrelevant what happens in the past. You know, what's the point in looking at that? It's irrelevant. And that's what Joseph Parker has done. Joe Joyce goes on to fight Zhilei Zhang twice and gets beaten twice. He's now fighting in Birmingham against Cash Ali, not even in the main event of a show next week. Joe Parker, I was going to say Joe Joyce there, Joe Parker is on the cusp of a world title fight. He may get elevated to full champion if Alexander Usyk, Tyson Fury winner, ends up vacating or getting stripped. And he's got big fights on the horizon. A loss doesn't define a fighter. It really, really doesn't. If you come back from it, you improve, which Joseph Parker has, it doesn't define you. He beat Zhilei Zhang on a majority decision. A majority. Should have been unanimous. Now, Zhilei Zhang came into this fight off the back of two very good performances over Joe Joyce. He lost in Saudi Arabia. In fact, Saudi Arabia is where he's lost both of his fights now. He lost to Filip Hrgović in a fight that many people believe was quite controversial, because a lot of people feel as though Zhilei Zhang did enough to win that fight, and a lot of people feel that he was very hard done by not to get the decision. He's then taken and made an opponent for Joe Joyce, who was WBO interim champion at the time. He goes in there in the copper box in Stratford in London, and he goes and he beats Joe Joyce in, I think it was 6-7 rounds. Stops Joe Joyce on an eye injury. Now, a lot of people feel as though if the fight had been allowed to continue, Zhilei Zhang, who is known for slowing, would have slowed down. Joe Joyce would have came back on. Hard to say. If is a very big word in boxing, as I always say. They have the rematch in September. He blows Joe Joyce out in 3 rounds. Coming into this fight, he was the favourite. Rightly so. He had a lot of good form coming his way. Joe Parker goes and he has a couple of fights last year. I think he had 4 or 5 fights last, or 3 or 4 fights, I think, before the Deontay Wilder fight. Goes and fights Deontay Wilder, beats him, and now he's in this fight. This fight was, early on, it really caught fire. Let's talk about the fight. Early on, it really caught fire. Zhilei Zhang was letting shots go from early on. Joseph Parker in the first round looked very rigid, very cagey, really worried about what was coming back, right? Because I think he knew, okay, with Deontay Wilder, I needed to be switched on, I needed to be careful. But at the end of the day, Deontay Wilder didn't really throw the right hand at all. He didn't really, even when he did, missing, not really, any confidence in it, no accuracy. Zhilei Zhang accurate from early on, and he was throwing the big left hand. The Joseph Parker, as the round kind of went on, he started getting a bit busier, but it was a nothing round, the first round really. I probably would have given Zhilei Zhang, he landed a few body shots. Parker got a little bit busier in the second round, but so too did Zhilei Zhang. Zhilei Zhang started coming on and throwing a few more shots. Then we get into round number 3. And Joe Parker, early on, what was he not doing? He wasn't moving his flipping head. Was not moving his head at all. He got a cut, I think it was up the bridge of the nose, because he kept taking shots, whether it be right jabs or left hands, straight left hands from Zhilei Zhang, and they ended up bashing his nose up, or the bridge of the nose up a little bit. There was a bit of blood there. Towards the back end of round number 3, Joe Parker gets hit with a straight left hand, a nice, quick, short, straight left hand, bang on the button, and he goes down on the back seat of his pants. Now, it was near the end of the round. He didn't look like legs were gone or anything like that, but touchdown, legit knockdown, referee calls it, he gets a count, and as the round for the last few seconds of the round, Zhilei Zhang is really putting it on Joseph Parker, and you're looking at this thinking, oh God, this is gonna, I think I know how this is gonna go, and it's not gonna be good for Joe Parker. But he comes through it, he survives. And then by round 5, bear in mind, this was the back end of round number 3. So from round 4 into round 5, you wouldn't expect a great deal to drop. I mean, it wasn't like, Zhilei Zhang opened up and threw everything at Joe Parker, put the kitchen sink. You didn't do that. It was like after round number 4, that was it. Zhilei Zhang had nothing left. He was taking in massive gulps of air. He was 291 pounds in this fight, which is very... Like, he's a big guy and he's very heavy at the best of times, but against Joyce in the rematch, he was 287, and I think he was 270 something in the first fight. So he's put on a lot of weight over, and it showed, certainly in the ring, it definitely showed. Joseph Parker at that point had a guy there who could really only resort to throwing single shots. There was no real kind of poison to jab or anything like that. He was taking big breaths, gulps of air in, and Joe Parker was just landing combinations. He was hitting Zhilei Zhang. He wasn't getting much of a response out of him, to head and to body, primarily the head. But at the end of the day, he was picking up the points, he was picking up the rounds, and it looked like Joseph Parker was actually going to be in a bit of a cruise control. Then we go into round number 8. And it was a bit of a weird because it looked like it was a right jab that landed like on the bridge of the eye for Joe Parker, and it just kind of he went down, but it looked almost like Zhilei Zhang kind of leaned on him a little bit. But Parker, when he went down, he didn't get, it wasn't like, oh, he leaned on me down, I'm back up. Joe Parker was kind of like down, looking at the corner, and everyone, I was kind of like, oh, what's going on here? Is he going to get back up? Is he good to go? He gets back up and he survives round 8. And then again, I looked and I thought, okay, has Zhang just saved a lot of energy? Is he going to go for broke? Is he going to go for the kill now? Has he been saving all that up to launch an attack late on? No, I think that was just a shot that went in, happened to drop Joseph Parker. Zhang couldn't follow up, and it was more of the same from Joseph Parker as the fight went on, and we get to the 12th round. Zhilei Zhang, his jabs were actually falling short, because I don't even think he could extend his arm out that much. He was so fatigued. It was insane how fatigued Zhilei Zhang was by the end of this fight, considering the fact that it was only after really 3-4 rounds. That was it. I was like, what the hell did you do in camp underneath? If that is the case, if you're that fatigued after those few rounds. So we've seen that before from Zhilei Zhang. So we get to the end, scorecards are read out, Joe Parker gets the win, gets the W. Derek Chisora twice, Andy Ruiz, Hughie Fury, Deontay Wilder, Zhilei Zhang. Who else am I? I'm probably forgetting other names as well. I know he lost to Anthony Joshua, and I know he lost to Dylan White, which that should have been a win. I think that really should have been a win. Who else? Beat Junior Fa, but that win's not really aged the greatest. I know he took Junior Fazo, but that win hasn't aged the best. Carlos Takam, forgot about him. Joe Parker's resume, that is a heavyweight resume that heavyweight resume, right, it's not even close. It's much better than Deontay Wilder's resume. And they're both former heavyweight champions. Joe Parker's resume, that right there. Deontay Wilder, well, I've got Luis Ortiz and Berman Stavern. Zhilei Zhang, Deontay Wilder, Andy Ruiz, Carlos Takam. I would say they are his main big wins. And they're all good wins. And they are like, Carlos Takam would beat Stavern. He would. Luis Ortiz, how good was he ever really? Would he have beaten an Andy Ruiz? Well, he didn't beat Andy Ruiz when they fought. So Joe Parker's resume, there you go. It's extremely impressive. It really is. Credit to him. What's next? That is the big question. What is next for Joseph Parker? I don't know. But I'm looking forward to seeing. He has 3 fights in Saudi, all wins. And I'm sure he is a very happy man. He is only 32 years old. He's not a old heavyweight by no stretch of the imagination. And as I said, he's learned from those, well, certainly the last loss, he's learned from that. And what does he do? Does he fight Daniel Dubois? Does he wait around, have a nice easy fight on one of those cards like Hrgovic did, and then look to challenge Alexander Usyk, Tyson Fury? Probably won't fight Fury because obviously he was there in his corner. But let's wait and see. I would imagine if Fury wins, one of the first things he'll do will be probably vacate that WBO just to elevate Parker to full champion, because why not? So we could have a 2-time heavyweight champion in the world in Joseph Parker. Let's wait and see. Let me know your thoughts on Parker's performance in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed the video, people. Smash the like button if you could, and subscribe, of course, as always, if you haven't already. And for now, I'll leave it there. Peace. Now, boxing today, it seems like there's news breaking every single day. There's fights being announced almost every day. Big fights at that. Boxing's in a good place. And sometimes, I don't know about you guys, but I find it a little bit difficult at times just to stay on top of everything, between checking Twitter, checking boxing scene, going on BoxRec to see if there's anything announced. There's a lot to look for. There's a lot of platforms you need to go on. And if you look there on screen, you'll see today's sponsors, Boxing Showtimes. They've made an app that does it all for you. Look at that on screen. It shows you where you can get tickets. It gives you all the latest news. It gives you the tail of the tape. It gives you all the card details. It's going to give you details about Fury Usyk. It's going to give you details about Joshua Ngannou. It's also going to have a lot more little things thrown in there as well. The link is in the comment section. It's going to be pinned on this video and more besides soon enough. And not only that, in the comment section, there's also going to be a link, a G-Man promo, which means you can access a little bit more without ads. Now that, to quote Eddie Hearn, is a game changer. Now let's crack on with the video.